Welcome to our second edition of our Charging Point podcast, Conversations That Move Us Forward. In this conversation, we welcome one of the most recognizable figures in the car dealership business in North Texas, an iconic figure, an iconic personality with an iconic slogan, Mr. Clay Cooley. Clay, welcome to this podcast.
Thanks for having me, Chris. I'm glad to be here.
Well, we're excited. When I say iconic, I hope you understand what I mean by that. When I moved here 14 years ago, one of the first commercials I remember seeing, and this tagline stuck. You know what it is. It's shot me first, shot me last. Either way, come see Clay. And that became like this jingle in my head. And we're going to talk about that later because there's got to be some like genius behind who came up with that. I want to hear the whole story about it. But one of the reasons why I think this conversation matters for our Dallas Christian community is we're neighbors. We're right next door to each other.
We are neighbors.
And I love that. It's hard to even drive any interstate in North Texas without seeing the ubiquitous Clay Cooley sign, and it feels like they're just popping up even more and more. And so when we realized that you were going to be coming right next door to us, and so we've got Clay Cooley Cadillac, Hyundai, and Genesis right there within a stone's throw, then that became something interesting for us as we realized, hey, this is someone who's going to be a great neighbor to us. Full disclosure, Clay and I actually went to church together when I first moved here, so 14 years ago. Right. So I've known Clay a little bit over those years, but I've also we know a lot of the same people, and so your character precedes you. And I've heard great stories. Some you probably don't even know about. Great stories in terms of your character, in terms of your philanthropy in Dallas with your entire family. In fact, I met your wife maybe 4 or 5 years ago at the Salvation Army annual luncheon for the area command. She was one of the organizers. I think she was the chairperson for that major fundraiser for the Salvation Army.
Lisa's trying to get me into heaven.
Oh, well, okay. Well, that's what our wives do, right?
That's right.
And so I remember my background's in the Salvation Army, growing up in the Salvation Army, and so I was really impressed with just, that event, but also the backing that you guys had in the area. And so just the philanthropy, the way that you give, and the partnerships. And so for me, it was good to think about, hey, we now have a great partner right in the area. And then I picked up the phone and called you. Yeah. And I don't know if I thought this wouldn't be the case, but you're so personable. You answered the phone, and we just talked, and we visited, and it was great.
Yeah. It's I've always answered the phone numbers I don't know. I mean, hey, I'm either going to hear something I need to know or somebody's buying or selling something. So, I always answer the phone.
One of the things that we're also excited about is, we have our BBI baseball fields, and we've been talking to our parents about this partnership, and we're actually going to be naming those fields, those youth baseball fields, the Clay Cooley Field of Dreams. I said, Clay, I have this vision. I love the idea of naming these fields the Clay Cooley Field of Dreams, partly because the piece of property just across from those baseball fields, you guys have acquired, and so that's been a big thing for Dallas Christian. But I also love the idea of all those parents who are on campus, being able to see that we're in partnership with Clay Cooley. And so we're going to be revealing that signage in the next 3 or 4 months. We like the idea of having the Clay Cooley Field of Dreams there, but more than that, I appreciated just from the very beginning your interest in Christian education, what we do here, and I think we'll get into this conversation in just a little bit. Even your faith background, recognizing the significance of what we're doing for the kingdom of God here at Dallas Christian, and it's always good when we're surrounded by commerce, we're surrounded by business owners. And you're the first person that, honestly, that we can identify with as far as a common faith commitment and someone that mutually we can just pick up the phone and call and say, hey, this is what's going on. Hey, how can we help? What can we do? So I'm looking forward to some collaborative opportunities down the road as well. And so I'm excited. I've got some questions because I personally want to know how you got to where you are now, what the journey looked like. And so I'm going to start with some of these questions. Peel back the curtain for us. Take us along the journey with you. So first question, take us back to the very beginning. Where did your story start, and when did you first know the car business was your path?
Well, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do. But I mean, so I worked at a grocery store from the time I was 14 to 20, and that was how I got back to Dallas. I was born in Dallas, and in third grade we moved to Lubbock, Texas. Okay, and I went to Lubbock Monterey High School, and there was a grocery store right across the street. So I worked at that grocery store from the time I was 14, and then when I was 16, I moved to the drug department, and my boss, Bruce Runyon was his name. He was a drug manager. In the drug department in the grocery store is not medicine. It's everything that's not edible, the plastics and all that stuff. So anyway, so I stocked the shelves and mopped the floors and did all that. And he was getting a new store in Plano, and I had just graduated, and I went up to Plano. I was a lobby manager, which was, sold the cigarettes, the camera, the film, and everything. I was up there. So that was how I got to Dallas.
So you moved from Lubbock. Did your mom come with you? Are you alone at this point? Are you?
So I lived when I moved up here with my grandmother. She sort of half raised me all my life, and I was one came, and then when I left, my mom and little brother and sister, actually, they all moved to Georgia, where my dad was at the time.
Okay. So you're in Plano working in the grocery industry.
Right.
How'd you start selling cars? What happened?
I did that for probably a year. Really loved it. And I have had the best jobs ever. People don't realize it. At a grocery store, you work with kids your age. Everybody gets off at, there's always people getting off at the same time, always stuff going on. Just really, a great job. And the car business was sort of the same thing. You work with a bunch of young people. Business is, young people. So, y'all, the guys doing the work and stuff. So that was sort of, I loved the grocery store. And then I thought, man, there's more to Dallas than the grocery store. So I started selling cars at R.O. Evans. It's where I started selling cars in the truck center. So anyway.
So you were the guy, when you pull on the lot, Clay's coming right out to greet you and start finding a vehicle for you.
Yeah.
It
took a while to figure that out, but yes, that's how it works. So
you cut your teeth on the ground floor selling cars.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, I only worked there for a couple of weeks, and then a guy I met my first day selling cars, Zuma, he came in, he says, hey, I got us a job down the street. And we went down the street to Trophy Nissan. And that was when they were on Northwest Highway.
Okay.
And
interesting.
So I worked at Trophy I sold cars at Trophy for probably 3 years. Okay?
What year is this right now?
We're talking, at that point, 82.
Okay.
Right. 82. So I was selling cars in 1982. So anyway, that was a while back.
Let's just jump. So you've built a brand that is unmistakably you. Mm-hmm. Your name, your face, your personality. Obviously, that was a deliberate strategy from day one. How did that evolve organically? So take us on the point where you started selling cars to then, you buy your first dealership. When did you, let's back up there. When did you come to the realization that, hey, I can have my name on one of these things?
I mean, you make it sound like it happened overnight. It wasn't it wasn't deliberate. It wasn't thought out. It wasn't, it wasn't like that. How's that? But I think that's how most people's journey starts. And
I agree.
I mean, I sold cars for 7 or 8 years. Okay. Then I went into management, almost starved to death because they don't pay anything when you go into management. And then I started going up the management level. And I worked for W.O. Bankston for 3 years. I worked, different places. I worked for Gary McKinney for your Carco. And I've had some great bosses, really great bosses. And my last job I had, I worked at Toyota of Dallas for 8 or 9 years. So now we're talking from me starting to sell cars to, maybe 17 years later.
Yeah.
And I went home and I told my wife, I said, I'm going to get another job. And she goes, if you're ever going to go on your own, now's the time. But we had just moved into a new house, had Chance, our last, he was 2 or 3 months old when I quit my job to go on my own. We didn't worry about it, but we opened up a used car lot. And I'd talked, Arcadia was a bank, and I remarketed their repos. And I had a little floor plan from Founders, a small one, and that was how I started. I opened up a used car lot in the old Travis Boat Center on 35. So that was my when I left the new car franchise, opened up a used.
And what year is this right now?
98.
98. Okay.
So 98. So that's what I'm saying. There's always a stretch between these things. People never realize that. You got to remember, everything before that time was from the grocery store, which taught me how to deal with people, to the years in the car business, it taught me how to deal with people. And I had some great bosses that trained me up, showed me how to make a living, not just sell cars. Life is not a rehearsal. You got to get in there and do what you want to do. But if you don't ever do what you want to do, you'll never know if you wanted to do it or not.
Well, and I like how you said that earlier, Clay, as far as my question seemed like, hey, this was just one big strategy. We're going to go whiteboard this thing in the back room, and we're not going to do this. And I imagine maybe there are some companies that come about that way, but probably for most, and this is true in life, right? God calls us to be faithful to wherever we are. And when we're in that moment, we just do what we are called to do in that moment, and then doors begin to open, and probably maybe you'll agree with this. Oftentimes, it's in retrospect that we begin to see that maybe God had actually been working during that time in your life. It's I sometimes wonder or wish that God would give us a little more forethought, or at least a little more vision how things play out. It seems like that would be a lot easier. I think He's intentional to say, hey, listen, you just need to be faithful. I'm not going to show you everything how it plays out for all kinds of reasons. And so the ability to just say, okay, this is where I am now. We're going to see where this goes. And then that happens to turn into something, which turns into something. And then when you look back 10 years, you realize, I never would have been able to predict this. And yet you see God's hand, to your point, right? These jobs that were foundational for you, formational, great bosses that were mentors for you. And probably while you're in the moment, you're not necessarily thinking, hey, this is going to really be shaping me for, to launch my own car business down the road. But that's exactly how God seems to work. And so I think that's a great distinction for all of us, even for our high school kids. We're about to graduate a group of seniors, and it's important for them to know, hey, listen, it's going to be an adventure. And you're going to make some there's going to be some contours, some twists and turns, and it's going to feel like I'm not going where I'm supposed to be going. And yet God does have a way to kind of pull that back around the geography to where it kind of takes us to where we need to be. But I think it starts with that approach, and so that's an important distinction.
Your journey in life is is sort of like faith. I was if the church doors were open, I was there, right? And
so was his grandma making sure there?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the thing is, you don't realize it, but if you do the groundwork, right? If you do the groundwork, put in the time, the effort, you do the groundwork, you're gonna, you might get away from the church for a while. When you lay the bricks, you do come back.
Yep.
And that's just like your job. When you're laying the foundation for whatever you're doing, it's going to have application to the next job and the next job and wherever you go, right? And so, but people don't look at it. Everybody now, they don't want to put in the time. They just want to be the owner. And,
I was about to say that. Is that?
And I see it. So I sold cars for 7 or 8 years. Well, these guys sell cars for 2 years and they get put into management. And the thing is, we're doing them a disservice because they don't. You've got to go through good and bad times, and life is not always good. And so anyway.
No, that's a great distinction.
I got in there, I just letting you know. But if you do the groundwork and you put in the effort, then you do.
Yep.
When you look back on life, the one thing I figured out is you don't even know when you're getting the break.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? You don't. Sometimes you don't realize it, and I think, but I mean, when you're young, you don't think about that. I never planned past Friday. I started to probably 5 years ago because I was at a meeting and some guys were talking about some stuff, and I never realized stuff like that because nobody had ever told me, and that's one of the things that has really helped us grow. All my kids have great educations, and my wife pounded it in that I just want people to do the best they can do. If the best they can do is a D, well, let's get us a D and let's move on. But if they're getting, a B and it should be an A plus, well, we got a problem here.
Yeah.
And, so, if everybody does the best they can, it doesn't matter. Everything's good.
I want to talk about your family because that's a big part of, you have a couple kids now that work with the family business.
I do.
Let's go back to those early days. You mentioned your wife sort of having that prophetic belief in you. Now's the time. If you're going to go on your own, now's the time to go. Talk a little bit about the role your wife played in giving you that sense of encouragement, maybe even some grounding, and then all of a sudden take us to, okay, now kids are showing up. You got kids now in the house.
Oh, yeah.
And how did they started work? When did they start working with you in the dealership? So give us pull that curtain back a bit.
Yeah, so all my kids worked, and Chase was older, but Chase came, to the car lot when I started because he was a little older. So he was probably 10 or 12. So he was coming then,
Okay.
When I'd go, I'd take him and stuff. So, I mean, he washed cars and did everything. And then he worked himself up through when Chase had done everything by the time he was in school.
Oh, wow.
And and all the kids worked and did everything. So, I mean, we've trained them up well. All of them did.
So that work ethic, I guess that's something probably you remember.
I worked hard.
On your own, you had to do that.
At my house, if you don't work, well, you got a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you work, you do better. So
That's an important, and that's a good lesson for parents today. Even, I mean, we're living in arguably the best economy our world's ever seen. Most people watching this podcast live in the 1% of just wealth, just 1%. And I know as a parent, my wife and I, we've had these conversations, and I have 3 daughters, and just a generational change. Growing up for me, my parents were never really, I never did without, but we just never had a lot of extras. And so it was a big deal if we got to go out to eat ever. And I remember my first car, I bought a 1976 Chevelle Malibu from a gentleman whose mom owned it. She passed away. It only had 36,000 miles on it. Okay, so I bought this in the late 90s. And for $800.
Yeah.
And I didn't even really, I just started a job. I was, and so I put that on a credit card. I didn't have cash to pay for it.
Yeah.
And so I remember that car, and I took pride in that car. Now, it was not a pretty car, and it was a V8 4-door. So it wasn't even the nice 2-door Chevelle, that would be kind of sporty. But I just remember thinking, gosh, that was a big deal for me.
Yeah.
And then just even fast forward to now, our parenting approach, and we talk about this, and we've been blessed with 3 great daughters. And my tendency is to want to make life a little easier for them. Because, we do that, right? We had it hard, and we want our kids to have it not as hard as we had it. And we forget that it was in my daughters have never had bologna. And that was a staple at our house, was a fried bologna sandwich. So my dad was in the
military. They don't know what they're missing.
They apparently so. And my dad was in the Navy, and so he was gone on deployment a lot. So my mom was functionally a single mom, and so she was a secretary for Pat Robertson ministry in Virginia Beach. That's where we lived, and so I didn't even fully appreciate just she would go to work. I was the latchkey kid, so I had the key literally around my neck, and so she would be gone for work, and I had to go to the bus stop. I'd come home, go let myself in. I was home until 5 o'clock when she got home, and we, our menus for dinner was not Chick-fil-A. And I got a shout out to Chick-fil-A because I'm embarrassed the number of times I go to Chick-fil-A now. And my girls have probably been raised on Chick-fil-A. But anyway, I say all that to say there is this very honest, felt need to say, I want things to be better for our kids. But if we're not careful, the grind, the work ethic, sometimes the delayed gratification is critical. And we may be doing a disservice. And so I love hearing that, hey, your kids went to work at the dealership. They started washing cars. They started seeing all aspects of it. I think that's a great lesson.
So from the time I was 14, I took half my check home, okay, to the house. And I got the other half. So I always had money. I mean, I'm not saying it a different money, but for a kid, I had money.
Yeah.
I mean, I had more than most kids. So, I mean, I loved what I did. I mean, I had, one of my kids when I said, "Oh man, you had to work all the time." I said, "Oh yeah, I loved it." And, and I mean, I've always gotten sort of my, I don't know what you want to call it, my self-identity from my job. Mm-hmm. How's that? And so, I mean, I think, and a lot of people feel sorry for themselves and think this and that. But I mean, if you don't take responsibility, everybody hires. When my kids were in high school, all their friends would come and wash cars in the summer and get a check and loved it. Mm-hmm. And I think that always helps working. You gotta teach them. They got to work because nothing comes free.
Yep.
And
no, that's a big deal.
Everybody wants their kids' life to be better and easier than their life. I'll never forget. I came home from school in Lubbock, and it snows some up there, and it was snowing, right, and ice. And I worked 4 to 10 right after school. It was snowing, and Lucy, I wasn't really doing anything at home when I got home, and she goes, "Are you off work today?" I said, "No, but it's snowing. I'm not going to go in when it's snowing. I got to go outside." And she told me the greatest advice, Clay, the job is not here for you. You're here for the job. And after that, I never missed a day of work. It
really?
was because it's right. We're here. Mm-hmm. They're paying us to come in, mm-hmm. not just when we feel like it.
So let me ask you this: am I right? You now operate over 25 dealerships. Is that number correct?
Probably somewhere between 20, closer. I think 22 or 23
okay,
right now.
What's the hardest part of scaling a business while keeping the culture intact? So you go from one now yet. What's been some of the challenges that you've walked through and just your growth as far as all the dealerships go?
There's a lot of challenges to it. I mean, it's just I think the biggest problem is when you have one store before 09, 010, I probably had 6 or 7 stores, and I've had to reinvent myself 3 or 4 times, and I probably will before it's over again. You got to change with the times and figure it out, and when you have 5 or 6 stores, you can go to them, every day, every other day. You're going to see everybody. The guys in the back, shop guys. The guys in the front. Everybody, right? And now I think the hardest part is as you get bigger, you lose some of the bond with everybody, and you don't know everybody. And I think that's the hardest part for me is not knowing everybody. So
that makes sense. I have to ask, where did the iconic pitch? Shot me first, shot me last, either way, come see Clay. Because when I hear that, the reason I think that's a genius pitch, because what it says subconsciously is, and whether you may not have meant this when you guys developed this expression, but as the consumer, when I hear that, when I first heard it, I wasn't interested in buying a car, but what it told me was the confidence you had, which said, hey, listen, you can come first or last. Doesn't matter. We'll make a deal. And so all of a sudden, it wasn't like you're trying to keep me from going to the next guy or the next person, the next dealership. You weren't trying to get me to come to your place first, right? You were saying, hey, whether I'm your first stop or even the last stop, you can go to 5 different other places. We're going to make a deal. Come see me.
That's right.
I love that. So where did that even come from? How did that come about, that little jingle?
This is what you talk about. Oh, it just happened, and all of a sudden you start shooting commercials. It never happened like that. When I started and I went on my own, I had a used car lot, right? And I had to reinvent myself because I just came out of a Toyota store, and I thought all the banks that I used at the Toyota store were going to, buy my paper, my retail contracts. I thought, it was going to be sort of the same. Well, when I got out on my own, I figured out, oh, this doesn't work. The banks aren't going to do business with an independent dealer who just started. Then I had to switch to subprime, and so we sort of turned into a subprime. And then I had moved from where I was up to the Red Lobster or on Old Restaurant Row, and I was doing some infomercials. And so this was a long time ago. So we started doing these infomercials, and they were 30 minutes long. And then I had got it out of an automotive news deal, a guy named John Graziano, and John still buys my airtime, and he lives in Hawaii. But anyway, we were doing these infomercials, and we went over to Hawaii, and we were doing mainly Spanish infomercials. And so anyway, we were over there in Hawaii, and a guy named Leonard Lieberman, who owned Lieberman Broadcasting, which is like a Spanish network. And he talked me in to doing the Spanish commercials, and we started doing it. And then we started doing the English. And then in 2009, we had to reinvent, and I sold half my stores because the subprime business went away. So I sold half our stores. And then we started building back with better franchises. Okay, I had Daewoo, Suzuki, So anyway, we had those, and so we sort of reinvented ourselves, and we were over there, and one of my kids in Graziano came up with the shot me first, shot me last, either way, come see Clay. And so they came up with it, and then we started doing the 30-second spots, getting the good credit in. So that's sort of where how that came about. Okay. But that was
that's where it happened.
Did you have any idea that was going to take off and be so iconic? I mean,
no. And 10 years ago, we were going to change it up. I thought,
let's
change this up. And everybody said, no. All the the TV said, what are you doing? So and when you think about it, I've spent I've been advertising on TV and radio and everywhere for 25 plus years. So you really don't want to, mess it up now. So
don't change it.
Yeah. So
it's very much iconic. So did you say one of your kids helped come up with it?
Yeah.
Okay, which one?
It was either Chase or Chance. I can't remember.
So did they get royalties now? Are you paying them royalties for the?
No. After you give it, it doesn't keep paying
That's true.
back.
Okay, all right.
So yeah. And we didn't know that was going to be anything. That's what I'm saying. All the stuff, nobody thinks it's. Hey, it was just something.
You just try it and see what happens.
Put it. So,
how have you seen the car buying experience change over those 20 years, and how have you had to adapt to the customers' needs, to the markets? What are some of the things that you've seen out with CarMax, kind of when they popped on the scene, and now online buying and shopping and all that kind of stuff? What are some things that you've seen, and how have you guys had to adapt?
We've changed a lot. It's when I first started selling cars, everybody used print. Print in the Dallas Morning News. They had liners, where you could pay for the liners ads, and then they had the display ads, right? And so everybody that was how and some radio. People would do drive time radio to bring you in, like on Friday afternoon, Saturday afternoon, when the people were moving around, they'd do some radio. So that was sort of the way it was. And the well, I was in probably 83, 84. That was when when I started, the people came in with a draft, which was like a credit union or a bank would loan them the money.
Okay.
And that was how they bought the car. And then when I was at Trophy, they started they were setting up finance departments in the store so they could get the financing done at the store. So, I mean, the business has changed a lot since I've been in it, right? And then the internet came out. We all thought, what are we going to do now? And so we just sort of, continually, evolve with it.
Yep.
It's changed a lot. It's, the direct-to-consumer relationship, like the electric cars like Tesla and stuff, and then like you mentioned CarMax. So they're good. And all those people, like the Carvana, the CarMax, the Tesla, those people are different than want to come in because people still want to come to a dealership. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's not a lot of people will buy online, but it's very few that buy all the way through the process online.
Yeah.
No,
I understand that.
And so anyway, it is changing, but I'm not sure how quick it's going to change. We have internal conversations about it all the time.
Yeah. Chase is your oldest.
Mm-hmm.
So, in fact, I had a chance to meet Chase a few weeks ago. And so, Chase, SMU Law.
He went to UT Law, SMU undergrad.
Okay, that's right, UT Law. And so now he's working with you in the company. Mm-hmm. And is Sierra, is your daughter working?
She is. She just had a baby, so she's sort of working from home now.
Okay.
But she's, we got to get her back. She's,
Yeah.
It's, when people leave, you don't realize all they do.
And so the vision, I guess there's going to be a handoff at some point, and then you kind of have to, that's going to be tough, I imagine.
Chase deals with the stores mainly more now than I do. He does most of the hiring.
Yeah.
And so, I'm sort of handing it off as we speak now. I'm still messing around.
Yeah, I was about to say, what do you like? So when you're not working, which is probably rare, what do you enjoy doing on your free time?
Normally if I've always worked 6 days a week, right? And so we've always spent, when I'm not working, I'm normally with family. So yeah. I golf some, but I probably hadn't golfed in 2 years. So, I don't know how much I golf. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I say, so, like I said, normally we're doing something with family.
That's good. Mm-hmm. I heard a story not too long ago. And a mutual friend was telling me this story. And it was a friend of theirs. I guess that person had some car trouble. Their car kind of broke down near your neighborhood, outside your neighborhood. And he was telling our mutual friend the story how, cars are going by him, and he was waiting, I guess, for a tow truck or something. And he said a person stopped and it said, "Hey, can I help you? Do you need help with your car?" And it was you. It was, okay. He said, "Clay Cooley stopped to try to help me." And I said, "No, I was waiting something." And I think the story was, and then you were kind of, I guess, coming back, sometime later, and he was still there, and you stopped again. "Hey, do you need help with anything? Can I help you with that?" And it stood out because the person who was telling the story said, a lot of people went by, but I certainly didn't imagine, Clay Cooley was going to stop by and see if I needed some help. And what a neighborly thing to do. Talk about your faith. How has that, you said your grandmother had you in church when it was open. I know you guys are active members at the Preston Road Church of Christ, and a big part of that, what they do there and their leadership, I imagine. How has your faith helped you on your personal journey with the dealerships and just your family, and how has that mattered to you?
I'm not sure how people live without faith, and this world's a little tougher. You got to figure there's a better place. How's that? Mm-hmm. And so I think everybody, we're all in it together, and I think it's a big part. Mm-hmm. How's that? And, when you're supposed to help people, all this, it's, I live in the community. I make my living out of the community. Why don't why don't you give back to the community? And I'm not sure people realize how many people do give back. I mean, it's not one or two, it's millions.
Yeah.
You know, and I think people forget about that sometimes.
Well, I like how you put that, and we are in this together, and sadly it feels like culturally the rise of the individual has become a big distraction, and if we're not careful, some people or all of us, we could fall prey to that false doctrine that I just need to look out for myself, no one else is going to look out for me, and if we're not careful, we miss the people that God puts right around us, that He wants us to help. He wants us to show compassion, because the reality is someone probably showed compassion to us. Someone probably went out of their way to help us. And so I think it's a great sentiment we see all through Scripture, and I think that was one of the main teachings that Jesus expressed was, you know, if you let life get you so caught up and so busy and you're chasing whatever those goals are that you lose focus of the people right in front of you. It's the parable of the Good Samaritan. If you lose focus, then you're missing opportunities that God has for you to grow in that opportunity to help others. But it also, I think, just passes it on, right? And so I think it was a good story when my friend was telling me that story, and I think, not that I'm surprised that you would do that, but I do think it's a good reminder that regardless of one's station in life, regardless of one's capacity, what we can all do is show love, mercy, and grace to our neighbor and be neighborly, and I think that goes a long way. And real quick, I've been to a couple of your dealerships, just full disclosure, and I love the culture there. Some good energy. I've visited here Hyundai and Genesis recently, and I just love the culture there. I love the energy. I was at one store, and every time they sold a car, I think it was Hyundai, they had a big gong that they would hit the gong when they're. And so while we were there, someone had sold a car, and they got to go bang the gong, and so it was funny to see. But to your point, I think you're right. People want to go in, they want to see, they want to drive. You and I were talking about this off air. I don't know of another dealership that does this. This money back guarantee type thing, that you give people 3 days or 150 miles. If you're unhappy, bring the car back. We can trade it. We can get your money back. That's a great, I think, for a customer. I think that's a great benefit for them. Is that something unique to Clay Cooley, or is that something?
No, I mean, I think other people. There's some other guys that do it. I'm not. It's we want everybody happy. How's that? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I mean, life's too short. There's really no reason not to be, happy. We want the customers happy. If they're unhappy, they're never coming back.
That's a good point.
I mean, we want them. We want them coming back. So
and telling their friends.
Telling everybody. Yeah. We can't make a living off selling one car to one person. We need them coming back and telling everybody. So yeah. I mean, we were taking some cars back, right? And then I thought we might as well advertise it, because if we're going to take them back, we need to treat everybody the same. Mm-hmm. So we do that. So
I like that. Yeah, that's a good. And I had, obviously, like the average person, have bought some cars over the years, and I've never really had anyone lead with that. Mm-hmm. In fact, I don't know of another dealership that does that. Mm-hmm. They may. I just was never made aware of that. And so I thought that's a great. It's a reassurance, because it's a big purchase. It's a big decision. And, sometimes you're driving off and you're thinking, oh, boy, we got this payment. We got this. Did I get the right one? Or is my wife going to like this one? Or do we, and so I think just knowing that little peace of mind that, hey, we could always go back, I think that goes a long way.
So I figured out that, the woman will buy the car without the man there, but the man normally won't buy the car.
Interesting.
The woman there.
There's a lot going on with that.
Yeah. Well, I think in a lot of houses, the women pay the bills, keep up with the budget, sort of know what's going on.
Yeah.
And and men can make some bonehead decisions sometimes.
We can be spontaneous.
Yeah,
we could,
So anyway, it's so that's just something we figured out over years and years and years.
Interesting. That's probably I know some people that have that. That's how that works in their families. Clay, I want to thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate this conversation. I appreciate you pulling the curtain back, letting us see a little bit of the journey, letting us see inside the family what's going on, sharing your faith. I know as far as Dallas Christian goes, we love the fact that you're right next to us. That matters to us. Because I know what you stand for, and I think that goes a long way for us. And so your time means a lot to us. Thank you. And I look forward to, other collaborations down the road, and I'm looking forward to the Clay Cooley Field of Dreams on that youth baseball.
That's going to be
a lot of fun.
I'm excited.
There are hundreds of kids out there every weekend playing youth tournament baseball, and trust me, I see all those SUVs. Yeah. They're all there.
Well, I like kids better than I like adults sometimes.
Well, you know what? I understand that, and we're blessed to have a great school community here, and so anyway, I look forward to that. Well, again, thanks for your time, Clay, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris.
Absolutely.